I came to read the book Dorothy Parker in Hollywood, you know, accidentally, like everything else was accidental. I was reading Apple News and saw an article about the publication of the book. So I thought, okay, I'll read that. And went to my library website and requested the book, which they didn't have. And maybe it said it was on order. Anyway, it came, and as you can see, November 2024, which is what the date is now. We're still in November, are we? Yeah. And it's by Gail Crowther. Gail, Crowther. Crowther. She wrote the Three Martini Afternoon at the Ritz as well, which I didn't read. So Dorothy Parker in Hollywood. Yeah, I didn't know all that much about Dorothy Parker, and I thought, why am I? Oh, I guess I wanted to read something about a writer in Hollywood because, I kind of have this love-hate thing with the movie biz, moving images in general. I kind of resent their power. And even more and more, I'm resenting their power and how they have and reading a book like this makes me resent their power even more, and how they dangled the little carrots in front of people and pulled them out there to L.A. and to make their crappy products. And yeah, so I wanted to read about a writer in Hollywood. There's another, she mentions, I think, Ian Hamilton, another previous book about writers in Hollywood. I think that it covers several others. I remember screenwriter in Hollywood books in the past that I didn't read. But at any rate, this one, I thought it was pretty good, and it ended up putting me right in the center of so many things that I think about normally, even now in 2024, even though the character, Dorothy Parker, the subject of this book, died in 1967, which was a long time ago, and she died at the age of 73, which is my current age as of this month of November 2024. So I'm 73, just like Dorothy Parker was when she was 73, and hitting the end of her life, which I might be soon as well, except I'm kind of too healthy, I guess. There's a lot of alcoholism in this story, which is, rough to deal with, but it's so much, part of the 20th century, really, and 20th century writers and, well, people in general, I guess. But I don't know. To me, it seemed, as a hippie generation person, it seemed like the alcohol and cigarettes people were from the previous generation or something. But of course they're here as well, and part of my generation too. And of course people I went to high school were into all that stuff and cigarette smoking, and eventually stopped maybe or whatever. But yeah, so we start out with Dorothy Rothschild, who is growing up in New Jersey, and her daddy dies very young, and then her mommy dies very young, and she's raised by, I don't remember who. And ultimately, she's a clever young woman. She's taken to like Catholic schools and doesn't get along there, and finally goes into a school that kind of sees her as she was, some kind of girls' school or some such. And saw that she was clever, and clever particularly with writing. She ends up getting involved with Vanity Fair magazine by submitting one of her verses. She's known for these, sort of light comic satirical verses, I guess. And so she gets a job working for the Vanity Fair. This is, when she's very, very young. We're talking about like in the early 1920s, maybe even the teens, I think, there. And from that, she springboards into, she becomes the first woman who is a drama critic in these New York magazines. First woman drama critic in New York, and she doesn't go on and on about all this stuff. It's not, it's not the full biography. It's a smaller biography. It's a more contained biography. It's there are a lot of books like this. Like there was this one actually most reminded me about Charlie Chaplin and the left. Recent one of Charlie Chaplin and his issues with America, and another one about Chaplin and James Agee, which it goes into the same story of these people who had a lot of success, and then by the time the late 40s rolled around, they find themselves in problems because they're decent people, and the times of decent people are over because it's the time that the military mind, the Central Intelligence Agency, the corporate hacks that run that, the Sullivan and Cromwell, Alan Dulles types, the businessmen who really, big businessmen who really get control of the United States after World War II, and continue to and become basically the new fascists, the new Nazis, because they recruit a lot of the Nazis into to their intelligence web because they want to attack the Russians. And here I am talking, over 75 years later, still about this Russian thing that the United States has, this continuous need to put Russia into the enemy camp. Enemy number one for the U.S. has been Russia, Russia, Russia. And in the past 10 years or so, it's gotten even worse with the Russia gates and everything. Hold on a second. So I stopped looking at the results of these videos I'm posting. I kind of, before I would, we have a little app that you can look at your channel, your YouTube channel, and see how many hits you're getting, and look at the comments and so forth. And over the last, 3 or 4, I've just stopped looking. It bothered me to look. I guess I did want to be successful and popular, and it was just bugging me to keep looking and wondering what would happen if I got to the monetized state and so forth. But now I've just given up looking, so So I'm just going to talk the way I talk here about this book, and let the results be what they will be. Because I guess I really don't care anymore, because, you know, a lot of things are not worth caring about. Especially when you're, you know, looking at a living in a system that just is now hankering for nuclear war. I mean, as nuclear. What did I say? Nuclear? I meant nuclear. As the United States is now allowing, you know, these people in Ukraine that we were told previously were actually fascist, Nazi types, and well, it was now it's okay to give them money, these Nazi types, because they're battling the Russians, and of course that's just the same as it was before when the Nazis were brought into the Central Intelligence Agency to battle the Russians. So here we've been going on all this time, and I don't know if it's going to end up with some sort of nuclear war. I feel bad for the Russians and for the Americans who are being put in this position. This horrible and stupid. And I'm tired of it. I'm mad as hell and can't take it anymore. So back to the book. Dorothy Parker ended up going to Hollywood, and after being on the round table, you know, she was a famous person of the Algonquin round table, which she downplays later in life as being, well, yeah, I didn't really go that often, and it was just sort of this thing, and you know, but became close friends with a couple of the personages of the round table. Particularly Alexander Wolcott and Robert Benchley. And Robert Benchley also went to Hollywood and had quite a Hollywood career, as we know from the series of shorts he did that are, you know, really good. But then, you know, there's after World War II. Things start to really fall apart for, you know, in a really sad way for Dorothy Parker. Like, what, in 1946 or 47, 56-year-old Robert Benchley dies of cirrhosis of the liver. Now, in the beginning, when they first met, they were both teetotalers, but apparently that didn't last since they both became alcoholics and had a lot of trouble with it, apparently. Well, you know, Benchley died. You know, I don't know that much about alcohol. My brother also died of cirrhosis and other complications at age 64. And, you know, I don't really understand how much you have to drink, at what rate, at what hours, to get that, because I'm scared of alcohol, so I just stay away from it. But yet there's two movies of her biggest movies that have Dorothy Parker's name associated with them that are very much about alcoholism. The first is The Star is Born, which she, with two other people, wrote the screenplay. The 1937, whatever, the version with Frederick March and Janet Gaynor, which was in early Technicolor. And, you know, it's a pretty good movie. And, of course, it's about a guy who is already a star, who discovers the younger female who is going to be the star, and as his ship sinks, quite literally actually, hers is on the rise. So it's the contrast of these two characters and their relationship, their love relationship. And Smash Up, which was in 1947, which is, I guess, about 10 years later, which is kind of the inverse of A Star is Born. I watched Smash Up last night after I finished reading the book. It's available on YouTube, and Susan Hayward's in it, and she was really good. Lee Bowman, I don't know who the hell he was, but he's the other lead. And it's kind of the inverse of The Star is Born, in that the star in the beginning is the singer, who the Susan Hayward character, and she meets this other guy who's kind of a song plugger with his partner, Eddie Albert, and she falls in love with him and kind of gives up her career, and he starts rising. Well, she's just sort of bored at home and has a baby, and is bored, although she has everything she wants and lives in Sutton Place, overlooking the 59th Street Bridge and all that. And but she's just, unhappy, and starts drinking. One line about that in the movie that quite struck me when she's talking about drinking, and why when she was singing in the bars, why she would take a couple of drinks before she went on. What was the need and purpose of that, and what caused her drinking? And she says fear of people. I think been thinking about this, and about people and substances and people getting together, and how much people like one another, and how much I know that throughout my life I've thought that using a substance, particularly like marijuana or even LSD, as something to either buffer me or make me more open for socializing with other people, reduce whatever, barriers there were to that, inhibitors. And, I think there is something to that somehow, in our society, or where we all live, Westerners or whatever, I don't know, but I think we have a hard time dealing with one another. And if we gather, a gathering place for people to hang out, they just don't come together and hang out. They come into bars and hang out, and they bond together through alcohol, and getting off with alcohol, and losing their inhibitions, and having great fun with it, actually, and having creative spells out of it. I mean, it can loosen people's pens, I guess, and help them to write things, and help them to do all kinds of things, unless it doesn't spin into a thing where it becomes hazardous and starts controlling the life. And I guess any substance is like that, a stimulating one. Like, alcohol is pretty stimulating. It's like a downer and an upper sort of at the same time, because, it's so energizing with all this kind of, food energy in it, liquid bread or whatever. So, but with this book, she ends up meeting a man, Alan Campbell. Anyway, she has this husband, and they write together. So they're the ones that are writing these things together. And then she has they split up for a while, and they get back together. He goes to the army. He might be sort of bi, There's questions about his sexuality all through it. And she ridiculed him about his sexuality when she was drunk sometimes later on. That she called him the F word for a homosexualist and things like that. So she was quite an activist. And that was really kind of what she ended up doing in Hollywood. That was, basically the primary work. She was getting a lot of money to work on these scripts, that often went nowhere. It's such a collaborative biz. Like, okay, 5 people get the script, and you work on with this other 5 other people, and the producer comes in and he changes this, and rather changes that, and it's all just a mess of collaboration, and people get lured into this factory, basically, for the big money that they get out of it. And some people can do that. Some people can keep control of themselves. Some people are just kind of ashamed of the whole thing, I suppose, and wondering what the whole purpose of it is, and fall apart. She apparently just didn't really have a whole lot of discipline for herself, for her own writing. Maybe she didn't feel entitled enough as a woman to really separate herself and write. Because, the Hollywood stuff was collaboration. It was all with her husband, with Alan Campbell. And that's fine, but on some level, it's not fulfilling. It's not really, one's own work, and it's work for this, ugly machine, and they know that. So it's getting bought off, and having the and being dissatisfied with the whole thing. But while out there, she got involved with a lot of causes. One in the first Sacco and Vanzetti. That was way back in the 20s while she was still in New York. And then into the 30s, she got involved with the support of the Republican side of the Spanish Civil War. The Republican government had been voted in, and the resurgence of the insurgent forces of the fascists were trying to take over, and so there was a lot of support. The Abraham Lincoln Brigades went to Spain. Actually, she went to Spain for a little bit, one trip, to see for herself. She'd never been in a war zone before, so she was very much involved with supporting the right side, as far as I'm concerned, with the Spanish Civil War. Of course, that didn't work out. That was a failure. And as well as other, she was also involved in like the anti-Nazi committee, basically an anti-fascist, and all that ended up being a real disappointment, because, well, I took a photo of one of the front pages of one of the quotes, where she says, fascist isn't coming to America, it's already here. And that was in 1947. So, and, to me, that's a good reading, because that's when everything really started shifting into, us being anti-communist, and being so, the government being anti-communist, the government choosing a side like that, as if that's the righteous thing to do, and it never was, and then crushing a lot of people, and that's when, people started getting blacklisted with the House Un-American Activities Committee, which was all through the 40s and so forth. And people, even Gail Crowther here makes what I think of the mistake of at one point calling it McCarthyism, whereas McCarthy wasn't involved with you know Dorothy Parker and the Hollywood people at all. That came before. And to put it as McCarthyism diminishes a movement that has always been there and is still there, and is basically the anti-socialist business world. It's not McCarthyism, it's anti-communism and anti-socialism and basically anti-left liberalism, because any of these things get wrapped into the same bag and tossed out. And it's been a continuing process of these things going on since the 30s and 40s, when business people got shocked by what was going on. Well, look, we have Social Security now. Well, that's you can't have that. Government giving away things to people, even though people pay into it. Of course, they're fine with dumping all this money into the corporate world, corporate welfare. When Obama rescued the banks with $1 trillion, whatever, instead of the people whose houses were being foreclosed on. It's all the same old stuff. So there is a lot of heartbreak in that. And so she's, working in this kind of crappy business. There is political heartbreak everywhere in the horrible things that have been going down in this country and globally. And, it eats at a person. And, I think that's part of the alcoholism issue with her, and maybe addictive things with other people. It's like, well, fuck it, basically. Who cares? There's nothing I can do about it anyway. It's just a frustration and pointless. So well, might as well just get drunk again or get stoned again today and forget about it. So yeah, I guess I haven't really gone into much detail about Dorothy Parker, but you can find that for yourself and look into the story. I'm just telling you the impact that I had on me, and it just I didn't expect, as I said, to go in that direction with this, but it led me to the same place of just being discouraged with America. And in the past couple of years, it's just more and more discouraging. And you see this rise of this sort of fake billionaire populism, and you understand where it's coming from, since no party is really serving the people or cares about the people. They're both corporate Wall Street entities, and so you can see the desperation for people wanting to do something. And then there's these phony wars and Russia, and Russia's a threat. The United States invaded and disrupted and murdered, 1 million people since 2001, attacking Iraq, attacking Afghanistan, attacking Libya, United States and NATO, and now it's on to the Ukraine. Set up this phony thing. I of course I'll say that they are instigating this. NATO and the United States instigated the whole Ukraine thing, and they they forced Putin into it, into attacking Ukraine, because they thought it was going to defeat deplete his country. The intelligence here is just horrible. I mean, the spy agencies are supposed to tell us what will happen. Oh yeah, well, Putin will be out of gas in like 3 months, as when we instigate him to attack in Ukraine. He's going to spend all his everything, and it's going to be over. Well, what's happened instead is this Russia's just gotten more and more powerful, and the economy there is doing very, very well, while Europe is suffering in cold because, well, the United States blew up an important gas pipeline that was coming out of Russia. So anyway, you know, you can unsubscribe if you're a subscriber. You can do whatever you want for this channel. Because as I said, I'm not really looking at it anymore. I'm just going to keep making these videos and perpetrate them on the world, and giving my distorted little views of a distorted little world that we live in. But that said, I thought this was a really good book, and I did get a lot out of it. And I think I'll probably look into reading some more Dorothy Parker stuff, and I'm kind of like I'm kind of at a strange point in my life now. It's like, okay, maybe I want to read the Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. So I got this from a library, and I started it, and about 10 pages in, he goes into a story about how he's in college and in love with the girl, and going after the girl, but she's the great cock teaser, and he talks about how a guy, like, as if we all know that a guy, if he's not satisfied, if they're making out and it doesn't go to complete sex and coming, that guy gets, well, what was always called blue balls, that there's some sort of pain that occurs in the lower half of the body that's just this horrible thing. So he starts out with that kind of a myth as though it's a real thing. And I thought, I don't know. And so I got on Goodreads and read that there was a lot of other that kind of stupid sex stuff in it. And I just don't want to read that now, so I'm not going to read that. And then I had picked up this at the library, Paul Auster's New York Trilogy. I've never read Paul Auster. And, then I'm just like, okay, it's sort of the postmodern thing. And I kind of read about that. And I think this is going to go back to the library as well as this other one. And maybe I'll pick up something else there today. Or maybe I'll just start talking about old movies I like to watch or something. I don't know. But anyway, I guess that's all I'm going to say about this book. It was not a very good review of Dorothy Parker. It's just a review of my consciousness at the moment here in, what is it? November 22nd. Yeah, that's a significant date in 2024. So, yeah, November 22nd.